We have driven the current RAV4 in many, many iterations. We have not driven it in this version. There are so many trims. It's like the 911. They're making more trims for every possible version.
Anything that we can get to compare to 911s is a good thing.
Well, okay, sorry.
You did it.
I didn't mean to go there for that reason. I wasn't trying to go Porsche for that reason. I was actually making fun. But the point here is, this is one of Toyota's most successful vehicles. They sell like almost 500,000 of these a year.
That's a lot.
Because of all the trims that they make. This is the TRD Off Road of the current RAV4. And so we decided, since we've driven this vehicle many, many ways, we would only go off-road.
That's all it's good for.
Thus is the name.
Thusly let it be so.
Yes.
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive. Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
The off-road version has been around on the RAV4 for a few years, but this is the 2024 model. It's got a 2.5-liter engine, 4-cylinder, 203 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque. I wish for a turbocharger, and I thought the transmission was a CVT because of the way it shifted. I just couldn't get a tune out of this thing. Where is the power? So I wish for a turbo. I wonder if they came out with a turbo, something of this engine that would really wake it up. But
the reason that it isn't is because the other way you get this, above the 5 trims or so that this comes in with this engine,
but the 50
is
trims.
The hybrid versions, where you can get lots of different trims of the hybrid version, which of course gives it slightly more power and definitely more torque because it is the Toyota hybrid system. And then above all of those is the Prime, which we've driven and really like. The Prime is the plug-in hybrid, but that's touching about $45,000, has the power you expect, and also has that really good, you could drive it just as an EV, and then of course it'll work like a hybrid. So the Prime's the king, but this is, if you will, the upper trim of the non-hybrid RAV4s. Confused yet? We're trying to thread the needle here.
All right, so this is the TRD Pro. The differences are in the suspension, specific TRD tuned suspension, coilovers, and you get the skid plates on this as well.
Yes.
But one thing that is really missing visually for me are the larger wheels and tires. This one does not have those, and it still looks too normal. It doesn't look like a TRD at first glance. The color might be the giveaway, but otherwise it doesn't say off-roading, and that's not really what a RAV4 is for. I feel like Toyota felt like they could still extract money out of their customers, but at the upper end, you're not doing rock crawling with your RAV4. You just need good off-road capability, but tires alone would change that equation. These just really are street tires on a fairly capable off-road vehicle.
They are shaved down AT tires that don't have a snow rating. So, I mean, I know that there's some stuff that's been done here, but ultimately I feel like this is not where the RAV4 shines, and this is not a place where it should be made to try to shine. And that is my big struggle here, because this is nearly $42,000. You can get a hybrid version of this that's not the off-road pack, that is actually cheaper.
And at 40, like 44.
That's what I'm saying. At $42,000, you're almost touching the Prime, which we have often said is the one to get. I don't know, man. I like a lot of Toyota product right now. I like the RAV4 right now. I am struggling with the purpose of this trim because, in spite of those suspension changes, it's not really off-road enough. If you're buying it for the look, it doesn't really look all that off-roady. And this color, which you think is unique, is actually available on lots of other trims as well. There's now a woodland trim, which looks directly targeted at the Subaru Outback. And what was the, what do they call it? It's like the adventure connector. It's a tow hitch that comes on this. Yeah, they give you an adventure connector.
Hitch up your adventure to
it, man.
To your TRD.
You can put your bike rack on the back or your extra little shelf to haul stuff. That comes standard on the Woodland Edition. There's nothing wrong with how this drives. It's okay on the street, but the problem is it doesn't stand out with this lower engine. There's nothing about it like, oh, that's a surprise. Oh, that's really cool. I really like that. It's fine. The power of this gives it like a 0 to 60 in the 8s, which is acceptable.
It's turbo. Turbo.
Well, but they're counting on you getting it in hybrid. That's the reality.
I guess.
Frankly, I'm not impressed. And when I bring the price in, I'm actually really not impressed.
Well, here's the issue. Toyota didn't go far enough with the TRD goodness on this RAV4. But you think if they did, well, that pushes the price up even more.
Yes.
And now we're in new 4Runner territory. and even Land Cruiser territory at
Totally.
the bottom end of
Yes.
the Land Cruiser lineup.
Yes.
So there's a lot of cannibalization, but you have to give props to Toyota for not leaving money on the table. There are no gaps in the lineup. So you have to ask, who is the buyer for the TRD Off Road? If you live off of a dirt road, up a hill, kind of in a back canyon, and you're looking for decent gas mileage and something that you don't need a lot of towing capacity, 3,500 pounds, by the way.
Which is okay.
It's decent,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of things that are between 3,000 and 5,000 that you could probably find for
True.
similar money. So
Yes.
you just want something a good size. It's not too big, it's not too unwieldy, and it doesn't feel like a 4x4. It doesn't feel
Very
like a
true.
4Runner
Very
or a
true,
Land
yes.
Cruiser where we're, more substantial off-roader. I like the RAV4. I like what the RAV4 has become. It used to almost be a punchline, but it's not anymore.
Fair.
And the TRD Off Road definitely makes it substantial. Look down here.
I have it in mud and sand mode right now.
Okay, you do. Okay,
I
good.
do. I have to have it
because
in mud
you've
and
got
sand
the
mode.
multi-terrain
because,
select.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there should be a Park City mode because it snows all morning and then it turns to mud, but then it's still snowy. It's cold, and then when it melts, it's springtime green. And I think there's still a missing mode in here.
You're looking for
Park
Alpine Spring mode.
That's
what you're looking
it.
For. That's it. Yes.
It should be right in the middle here.
It should be just Alpine Spring. That's
Full
what's
mud
happening,
and
yes.
snow. Like, we don't really need that, and we don't need really rock and dirt right now. It's cold, but it kind of snows and it kind of rains, so I like that. It's capable. It really is.
I mean, for something like this, we've run down what is genuinely today a really nasty, muddy road.
Yeah.
We're not rock crawling, but traction is a question. And the all-wheel drive system on this is interesting because it is the upper-level all-wheel drive system offered on the RAV4. Most of them, it just engages or disengages the rear, but and can send up to 50% to the rear. This actually can disengage the entire driveline and just run front-wheel drive. This is a dynamic torque vectoring all-wheel drive system, which is only available on a couple of trims.
All right, take a look at the exterior. This is the Junior, the most junior baby of all the off-road kinds of looks. It is fairly aggressive for an SUV, but it really, you can tell, it's almost like a brother from a different mother. It almost is there. You get the sense of it, but it's not the full hardcore off-road. But that's not why you buy this. That's not the point. So I say this could be better suited, really, just towards the Prime and make it that.
This is them making every trim possible so that if you lean toward one way or another, we have you covered. But this is a road SUV.
It really is.
And
this
now
is
we're
as
making,
much as you kind of want to.
We're making the off-road version, which isn't quite off-road enough. Again, it drives fine, but there's so little standout. I mean, well, in that ringing endorsement, you need to drive, but it's interesting to be out here in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, nice and nice. Yeah.
Good news, everyone.
Good news. This is nasty. You have to hose this thing
Alpine
out.
Spring mode. Good thing it's got the all-weather floor mats.
The interior space is good, but actually just switching seats right now, I feel like that seat is higher.
I think you're right. I think it is higher. And it
Why is
doesn't
it
adjust
higher?
down. And this, again, this is a $42,000 vehicle. I can't make the seat go lower.
Why is that
that's
higher?
Weird. I don't, they have hard mounted this seat.
Yeah.
And that one has a motor that goes up and down. Something about the bottom travel of that motor is lower than the bottom travel of where this is set. I'm up.
Don't you
I'm
feel like-
touching, oh, for sure. Absolutely. I'm touching the headliner, and I wasn't over there.
Weird.
There's nothing I can do. So I am now in a high chair, which is the last thing I need with a long torso. I'm looking down to see out of the windshield.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
exaggerating
straight
it
in your
now,
head.
but still, yeah.
Great interior space. Like I said, this is actually really comfortable. It fits humans very well. There's a lot of backseat space. The rear cargo is excellent. Everything about this for the size, the class of vehicle is really quite good. I do like the RAV4 a lot. I like what it's become. And if you want something more, be prepared to pay more, but then you get capability along with that. You get better power, all of those things that you want. But this really is a sweet spot for keeping the price down, except for the TRD off-road package. Because if you're doing anything off-roading, this isn't the one you buy. You get a 4Runner. You get a Land Cruiser.
You're paying
you do
more
anything
money
else.
for an off-road version of a vehicle that doesn't need to have an off-road version.
It's a little strange.
It is.
8-speed shiftable automatic. See right down here, you can shift for
I
yourself.
know you're excited. I know you are.
I'm going to shift for
You're going to shift
myself.
for yourself, aren't you?
Oh,
yeah,
look
you're
at that.
Aggressive. Look
I've
at
got a little display where I can see the power distribution. It does have dynamic torque vectoring. I can see what's going on. Let's go to first.
Ooh.
Let's get a tune out of this not
right.
great sounding engine.
184 pound-feet of torque is not a whole lot to begin with.
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't know that you'd want to do anything serious. I think you would be concerned if you had the off-road and say, okay, but beyond this kind of muddy, nasty road, there's a lot of vehicles that can do this and more.
And here's the thing, it's fine here. It's not even thinking twice about this surface. And this surface is genuinely nasty. This is like
really
step out of the
slick.
car, fall over kind of nasty mud.
Yeah.
It really is.
And
it's doing fine in that regard. I mean, obviously we're on a mostly flat road. There's no obstacles, but this is nasty right now. And it does do okay. If I look at it another way though, any RAV4 with all-wheel drive would probably do about this well. That's the problem.
More off-road oriented tires on a Prime.
Well, sure, of course.
Fine, it'll do this and more. So, what is the real difference?
I think your CVT issue is the way the throttle and engine talk to each other.
I think you're right.
There's a rubber banding in that communication. Even though you're in actual transmission with actual gears, when you press the pedal, the way the engine decides to respond has a little bit of kind of lag to it that confuses the inputs of the brain to go, well, this must be a CVT, even though it's not. And that's interesting. I don't know that I've driven another vehicle where I was prone to mistake an actual automatic for a CVT.
Did you feel that at all?
But it's because
I was shocked.
It's because of the sound of the engine in the way it responds to the throttle. And I think it's giving you the wrong cue there, but I think that's why.
I thought it was a CVT.
Yeah, I get it.
It turns out it's an automatic, which I welcome.
You know, yes, this has extra suspension components. Yes, it's got a front skid plate. I see that. But I really struggle with, would another RAV4 have any more trouble than this is? And I don't think it would.
I don't think it would either. I was reading the list of TRD goodness that this brings to the table, and it's not long. Mainly it's appearance. But then you do get those skid plates, that kind of thing, and you wouldn't want to find the extremes of this because you would be let down very quickly, I feel like. So at this point, I think it's just a kind of a mud and snow. Maybe it's a great ski vehicle. Maybe it's a get to your cabin kind of vehicle.
Yeah, I think the problem though is this is Toyota looking at Subaru, looking at the Forester, looking at the Outback, and trying to make a competitor for that. I almost think that the base versions already are enough of a competitor for that.
I agree.
So and now Subaru has a better symmetrical all-wheel drive system, but for the way most people use this, the lesser versions of this are going to do just fine. Or you get up to the Prime, where you get all the goodness that this chassis and this model can have, and then you'll muddle through if you have to be off-road.
You're right. It's not a standout driver in any sense.
No, it doesn't need to be, but
it's not also like great value for money.
That is my biggest problem.
Which is a bit of a misstep.
The low $40,000 range makes it compete with itself in the hybrid versions, which I would rather have in a vehicle like this anyway, and gets it right up there to where the 4Runner, the new 4Runner, is going to land. And if you're actually off-roading, you get the 4Runner.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the Honda, the Passport Trail Sport version.
Yes.
I feel like the Trail Sport is less money and still better suited for anything this or slightly more.
That's a good point, and that's a very compelling vehicle.
That is very compelling.
If you are going to be off-road, that is a real one to look at. I totally agree with that. And I think you could actually go shop for things like the Blazer and think about it in off-road trims, and it would do just as well as this as well. And probably cheaper there, too. It's this trim put off-road like the name, and we find ourselves going, why?
Just, it adds cost where it didn't need to be added.
Yeah, and walks it into a lot of competition.
But I think this was a little bit too excitable by the marketing department. I think they decided, you know what, we could TRD all the things.
Sure.
And maybe I'm wrong, because I've said apply the GR thinking to everything. I think there's still room for a few more cars that could become GR flavored. But when you apply the same thinking to TRD all the stuff, maybe this is an example where it doesn't work.
That's good. I don't know that you need to have every variant of every car, but because the RAV4 is so wildly successful for Toyota, they definitely have thought about what's every variant we can make, because there's a buyer out there for it. And when you start amortizing out a chassis like this, it starts to make more and more sense to do that. But we just wound up into the unnecessary.
I shifted for myself.
I'm proud of you, Paul.
Shifted again.
Good for you, man. Excellent self-shifting.
We're democratizing off-roading with TRDing all the things.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing over here.